A millionaire heiress ignored a single-father popcorn vendor, but was shocked to discover he was her first love. Today you're going to learn the story of Kelly Fox, a woman who believed she had control of everything until a disastrous encounter in the heart of New Orleans proved otherwise. But what seemed to be just a designer suit ruined by popcorn hides a connection that time wasn't able to erase. Kelly Fox crossed the sidewalk as if the entire world should get out of her way. And normally it did. Her high heels struck the concrete in a fast rhythm, her cell phone glued to her ear, coffee in the other hand, and exactly 12 minutes late for the most important meeting of the quarter. That's when the universe decided to play a trick on her. The popcorn cart appeared out of nowhere. Or rather, it was there all along, right in the heart of the French Quarter, but Kelly didn't see it because she was too busy yelling at her assistant about acquisition spreadsheets. The impact was cinematic. The coffee flew, the popcorn exploded, and Kelly's $3,000 blazer turned into an abstract work of art made of butter and caramel. What the? She stopped herself looking at the mess. Pieces of popcorn dripped down her blazer as if they were repelling. "Miss, are you okay?" The voice came from behind the cart. A man appeared holding a paper bag as if it were a shield. Louis Dawson had the kind of smile that irritated people like Kelly. Too calm, too relaxed, as if the world wasn't literally collapsing around him. "If I'm okay, look at me." Kelly gestured like a game show host, displaying the consolation prize. "Looks like you got an extra caramel coating. I normally charge $2 more for that." He was smiling. The guy was actually smiling. "You think this is funny?" "A little bit." Kelly felt a vain pulse in her forehead. She didn't have time for this. She didn't have patience for this. And she definitely didn't have the disposition to stand there looking like a walking bag of popcorn while a street vendor made jokes. "Do you have any idea how much this blazer costs?" Louis tilted his head, analyzing the damage with irritating calmness. "By the way, you're reacting? I'd say it costs a small fortune. This is an absurd lack of care. You can't simply park this contraption in the middle of the sidewalk. Technically, I have a license from the city of New Orleans. And technically, you were walking and talking on your cell phone without looking ahead. That's dangerous, you know?" Kelly opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nobody spoke to her like that. Nobody. "Listen here, Mr. Popcorn Vendor. Louis, my name is Louis. I didn't ask your name, I know. But I gave it for free. Just like the popcorn you're wearing now." He pointed to her shoulder, where a particularly large kernel had lodged itself as if it had found a new home. Kelly removed the popcorn with 2 fingers, holding it as if it were radioactive material. "You're going to pay for this dry cleaning. Sure. You can send the bill to Louis's popcorn cart, right here at Jackson Square. Zip code. Good luck finding me." He winked. Kelly almost choked with anger. "People like you are the delay of progress in this city, you know? While we build, you all stay there, in the way, selling. Artisan popcorn with my grandmother's recipe. A Cajun recipe to make your mouth water. Want to try some? Maybe it'll improve your mood." "My mood is fine. Your left eye is twitching." Kelly brought her hand to her face involuntarily. The eye wasn't twitching. Or was it? "I don't have time for this." She turned and started walking, leaving a trail of popcorn crumbs along the way, like a corporate version of Hansel and Gretel. "Hey, lady with the expensive suit!" Kelly stopped but didn't turn around. "What? You have popcorn in your hair too. On the left side. It looks like a hair clip." She brought her hand to her hair and found not 1 but 3 popcorns stuck in the strands. She removed them all with abrupt movements, threw them on the ground, and continued walking without looking back. Louis watched her disappear into the crowd of tourists, shaking his head. Louisiana. Land of Southern hospitality. Apparently, not everyone got the memo. Almost an hour later, Kelly was in her office on the top floor of Fox Incorporation's, overlooking the Mississippi River. The suit had been replaced by a backup blazer she always kept in the closet for emergencies. Her assistant Peter entered carrying a stack of folders. "Mrs. Fox, here are the documents for the Garden District land acquisition you requested." Kelly took the main folder without looking at him. "Is the meeting with legal confirmed?" "Yes, ma'am, at 3 in the afternoon. But we have a problem." "Problems are meant to be solved, Peter. That's what I pay you all for." This problem is a bit more complicated. Kelly finally raised her eyes. What do you mean? The land we need for the new skyscraper project, the owner refuses to sell. Then increase the offer. We already increased it 3 times. Increase it again. Mrs. Fox, we already offered double the market value. He simply says no. Kelly closed the folder with a thud. Who is this guy? Some spoiled heir? Some activist wanting to appear on television? No, ma'am. He's a street vendor. He sells popcorn in the French Quarter. The world stopped for a second. Popcorn vendor? Yes, the land has belonged to his family for 3 generations. He refuses to negotiate. Kelly felt a tingling in the back of her neck. It couldn't be. That would be too much of a coincidence. Show me his picture. Peter opened the folder and slid the document across the table. Kelly looked at the photo, and there he was, Lewis Dawson. The same irritating smile, the same calm eyes, the same man who had turned her day into a comedy of errors. The man who held the key to the most important project of her career. Mrs. Fox, are you okay? Your left eye is twitching. Kelly closed the folder forcefully. Schedule a meeting with him. But ma'am, he already refused. I didn't ask if he refused or not. I said to schedule a meeting. Peter swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. He left quickly, leaving Kelly alone with Lewis Dawson's photos smiling at her from the document. She leaned back in her chair and took a deep breath, watching the boats pass slowly along the Mississippi down below. That popcorn vendor had just become the most important obstacle of her professional life, and she hadn't even managed to clean all the butter from her hair yet. Perfect, she murmured to herself. Simply perfect. On the other side of town, Lewis Dawson adjusted the lid of his popcorn cart, still thinking about the furious woman who had bumped into him that morning. The sound of a jazz band played in the distance while the Louisiana sun began to heat up. Poor thing, he said to himself, smiling. She must have a very stressful life. He had no idea how much their lives were about to cross again. And this time, the collision would be much bigger than spilled popcorn. Kelly spent the entire night staring at Lewis Dawson's photo in the document, and now she was standing in front of his house, wondering if she had completely lost her mind. The residence was on a tree-lined street in the Garden District, an old construction with a wooden porch and a swing that creaked with the wind. Nothing like the skyscrapers Kelly was used to frequenting. She adjusted her blazer, took a deep breath, and climbed the porch steps. Before she could knock on the door, a crash came from inside the house, followed by another, and another. And then the door opened by itself, and Kelly was hit in the face by a flying popcorn kernel. Apparently, the universe wasn't finished playing with her yet. Come in, come in. You must be the intern from social services. Lewis Dawson pulled her inside before she could even open her mouth. The man was covered in popcorn from head to toe. There was corn in his hair, corn on his shirt, corn in places Kelly preferred not to think about. I'm not. Sorry about the chaos. We had a small scientific incident. Small scientific incident was a generous way to describe that. The room looked like it had been attacked by a snowstorm, made exclusively of popcorn. There was corn on the sofa, corn on the curtains, corn hanging from the ceiling fan that was still spinning slowly, spreading more kernels around the environment. In the center of it all, a 7-year-old girl held a vacuum cleaner modified with duct tape and what appeared to be a hairdryer. Dad, I already told you it wasn't my fault. Physics betrayed me. Blair, sweetheart, physics doesn't betray anyone. You connected the vacuum in reverse mode. It was supposed to create a controlled corn propulsion system, and it created an uncontrolled corn propulsion system. Congratulations. Kelly remained standing at the entrance, holding her leather briefcase with the contract inside, completely forgotten. She had come there with a plan, a simple and direct plan. Enter, intimidate, get the signature, leave victorious. At no point in the plan was there a scientist child in a popcorn shower. Are you okay, miss? Lewis finally looked at her for real. His eyes were red from exhaustion, and there was a corn kernel stuck to his right eyebrow that distracted Kelly deeply. For a second, she was sure he was going to recognize her. The woman with the stained suit, the furious executive from the French Quarter. But no, he just smiled, relieved. Good thing you arrived. The agency said they would send someone today, but I thought they had given up on me. Kelly opened her mouth to correct him, and then closed it. An idea began to form in her mind. A terrible, unethical, and possibly brilliant idea. The other intern quit last week, Lewis continued, cleaning popcorn from his shoulder. She said she wasn't prepared to deal with gifted children. Blair adjusted the safety goggles she was wearing. I only asked her what her opinion was about black holes. She started crying. Sweetheart, you asked if she was afraid of being sucked into a parallel dimension during sleep. It was a legitimate scientific question. Kelly looked from one to the other, processing the situation. She wasn't the intern. She was the enemy, the owner of the company that wanted to tear down everything this man loved. But he didn't know that. And there was the perfect opportunity. So, Kelly said, forcing a smile, do you need help with the cleanup? You're an angel sent directly by the Louisiana Human Services Department. If only he knew. Blair, this is the new intern. What's your name again? Kelly. Kelly. Perfect. Blair, say hi to Kelly. Blair approached, analyzing Kelly from head to toe with a disturbing intensity for a 7-year-old child. You wear high-heeled shoes? That's ergonomically problematic. Blair? I'm just making a scientific observation, Dad. Kelly looked at her own feet. She was wearing 4-inch heels in an environment that looked like a food disaster zone. I have backup shoes in the car. Lie, you're trying to appear accessible, but clearly didn't plan to step on popcorn today. Lewis placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. Sorry, she's like this with everyone. I'm perceptive, Dad. There's a difference. Kelly took a deep breath. She had closed deals worth millions of dollars. She had faced lawyers, competitors, her own father in board meetings. She could handle a 7-year-old child. Probably. That's okay. I like perceptive people. Blair narrowed her eyes. Interesting. Most adults don't. I'm not most adults. For a moment, the two stared at each other. Then Blair nodded slowly. Acceptable. You can stay, but you'll have to help clean up. Blair, she's the intern, not the housekeeper. Everyone who enters this house during a failed experiment becomes a temporary housekeeper. Those are the rules. Lewis sighed and handed a broom to Kelly. Welcome to the Dawson family. I hope you're not allergic to corn. An hour later, Kelly had removed popcorn from places she didn't even know existed. Behind the refrigerator, inside the piano, in the goldfish aquarium, which now seemed very confused, swimming among corn kernels. Will the fish be okay? Bubbles has survived worse things, Blair informed. Last semester, he involuntarily participated in an experiment about the effects of coffee on marine life. You gave coffee to the fish? It was only 2 drops, for scientific purposes. Lewis appeared in the room, finally free of popcorn, holding 3 glasses of lemonade. Hydration break. House rule. Kelly accepted the glass, trying not to think about the fact that she was drinking lemonade in the house of the man whose land she planned to turn into a skyscraper. So, Kelly, Lewis sat in the chair next to her. What made you want to work with social services? The question caught her off guard. I like to help people. You hesitated. That came from Blair, who had appeared silently beside her, like a small analytical ghost. I didn't hesitate. Yes, you did. 0.8 seconds. I timed it mentally. Lewis laughed, and it was a genuine sound that did something strange to Kelly's stomach. Sorry, she times everything. It's a habit. A scientific habit, Dad. Hobbies are for people without intellectual purpose. Kelly looked at that strange and brilliant girl, then at that exhausted and kind man, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Guilt. She pushed the feeling away. She was there for a reason. The contract was in her purse. The signature was all that mattered. So, she said, trying to sound casual, have you lived here for a long time? Lewis smiled, looking around the messy house with genuine affection. This house has belonged to my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built every piece of it with his own hands. Kelly's stomach sank. Oh, how special. That's why I'll never sell it, no matter how much money they offer. Blair nodded solemnly. We have roots, like trees, except without the photosynthesis. Kelly forced another smile as the guilt returned with full force. What exactly had she gotten herself into? Kelly? Lewis was looking at her with curiosity. Are you okay? Your left eye is twitching again. Again? Kelly froze. What do you mean again? Lewis tilted his head, studying her face with renewed attention. It's funny. You remind me of someone. I just can't remember who. Kelly Fox was wearing an apron with a chicken print and holding a spatula as if it were an alien object. How had her life gotten to this point? Lewis had left exactly 20 minutes ago to get supplies for the popcorn cart, leaving Kelly officially responsible for Blair and lunch. Two tasks that, in theory, seemed simple. In practice, the kitchen was on fire. Not literally. Yet. The pasta shouldn't be doing this, Kelly murmured, watching the pot bubble threateningly. Blair appeared at her side, analyzing the situation with the calmness of a surgeon. You put the pasta in before the water boiled. So what? So what is that? Now you have a sticky paste that's going to need a chisel to be removed. Kelly looked at the pot. The pasta had turned into a compact mass that seemed to have a life of its own. That's okay. I can fix this. No, you can't. Blair, I'm a functional adult woman. I can make pasta. Being a functional adult doesn't mean being competent in the kitchen. They're completely different skills. One requires surviving in the world, and the other requires basic knowledge of thermodynamics. You clearly only have the first one. Kelly opened her mouth to protest, but was interrupted by a loud hissing coming from the stove. The frying pan next to it had started releasing smoke. What's that? It's the sauce you forgot you were making. I didn't forget. You did forget. 7 minutes ago, I timed it. Kelly ran to the frying pan and tried to stir the sauce, which now looked more like charcoal than anything edible. Why is it black? Because you left it on heat that was too high. The Maillard reaction went past the point, and now you have pure carbon. Is that bad? Only if you wanted to eat something that wasn't toxic. Kelly turned off the heat and stared at the disaster in front of her. Ruined pot. Destroyed frying pan. Pride in pieces. Okay. We'll order food. Finally, an intelligent decision. That's when Lewis came in through the back door, carrying bags. He stopped, looked at the kitchen, looked at Kelly, looked at Blair. What happened here? The intern tried to cook, Blair informed. It was a fascinating experiment about the limits of culinary incompetence. Blair? What? I'm being scientific. Lewis left the bags on the counter and approached the stove, examining the wreckage with genuine curiosity. That was supposed to be pasta? It was supposed to be lunch, Kelly said, defensive. I was trying to help. And I appreciate the intention, but maybe next time you can help in ways that don't involve fire or kitchen utensils. Or anything that requires motor coordination, Blair added. Lewis laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but something lighter. Almost charmed? You know, Kelly, you're the worst cook I've ever met, and I've met a lot of bad cooks. Thanks, I think. It's a compliment. There's something charming about your total lack of domestic skills. Charming? Refreshing. Most people pretend to be good at everything. You clearly don't even try. Kelly didn't know whether she should be offended or flattered. I'll order Chinese food, Lewis said, picking up the phone. And then you're going to help me with cart. I need extra hands today. Help with the cart? Yeah, pushing, serving, those things. You can push, can't you, City Princess? City Princess? That's your new nickname. It suits you. Blair nodded. It's accurate. You have the posture of someone who has never pushed anything heavy in their life. Kelly wanted to protest, but realized it was true. When was the last time she had pushed anything that wasn't an elevator button? An hour later, Kelly discovered that pushing a popcorn cart through the streets of New Orleans was significantly harder than it looked. You're pushing crooked, Lewis said. I'm pushing straight. If you were pushing straight, we wouldn't be heading toward that trash can. Kelly adjusted the direction abruptly, almost knocking over the bag of corn. This is harder than it looks. Most things are harder than they look, especially for city princesses. Are you going to keep calling me that? As long as it's funny, yes. They were passing through Bourbon Street when Kelly saw something that made her heart stop. A black limousine with the Fox Incorporation's logo. I need to tie my shoe. She crouched down behind the cart, hiding her face as the limousine passed slowly. Your shoe doesn't have laces, Blair observed. It's a heel. Then I need to adjust my heel. That doesn't even make sense. The limousine passed. Kelly stood up, her heart still racing. Lewis watched her with curiosity. Are you okay? Perfectly fine. Why wouldn't I be? Because you just hid behind a popcorn cart as if you were running from someone. I wasn't hiding. I was checking the structure of the cart. From underneath, that's where the important parts are. Lewis shook his head, clearly not convinced, but let it go. They stopped at Jackson Square, where Lewis began preparing the cart for customers. "Can I ask you something?" Kelly said, watching him work with surprising efficiency. "You can." "Why popcorn? You're clearly intelligent. You could be doing anything." Lewis stopped for a moment, looking at his hands. "I was an architect, graduated with honors. I had offers from the best firms in New Orleans." "What happened?" "Blair happened. Her mother left when she was 2 years old, said she wasn't ready to be a mother, left me with a small child and a career that required 80 hours a week." "You gave up your career for her?" "I chose her instead of the career. There's a difference." Kelly was silent, processing that. She had never chosen anything besides work. Her whole life was the company. Meetings, contracts, acquisitions. "Do you regret it?" Lewis smiled, watching Blair across the square, trying to explain quantum physics to a pigeon. Not for a second. Something tightened in Kelly's chest, something she couldn't name. "Hey, city princess," Lewis said, throwing an apron to her. "Less philosophy, more work. We have customers coming." Kelly looked at the apron. It had the same chicken print as the previous one. "Do you only have chicken aprons?" "Blair chose them. She says chickens are scientifically underestimated." Kelly put on the apron, feeling completely out of her element, but also, strangely, lighter. That night, while helping to close the cart, she realized she had spent the whole day without thinking about the contract, and that scared her deeply. "Kelly?" Lewis called, putting away the last utensils. "You're coming tomorrow, right?" She looked at him, at Blair asleep on the park bench, at that simple life she was about to destroy. "I am," she said before she could stop herself. On the way back to her luxury apartment, Kelly passed by Fox Incorporation's headquarters. The lights in her father's office were still on, and for the first time in her life, she didn't want to go in. The cold Louisiana wind came through the window, and Kelly discovered that even the southern United States knew how to be freezing when it wanted to. She was curled up on the Dawson family couch, pretending to read a book about child development that Blair had lent her. Actually, she was watching Lewis rummage through an old trunk in the corner of the room. "Dad, I don't need gloves," Blair said, crossing her arms. "Cold is just a thermal sensation that can be overcome with willpower." "Sweetheart, willpower doesn't prevent hypothermia." "Technically, yes it does. If you move fast enough, you generate body heat. You're not going to spend the night running in circles." "Why not? It would be an excellent cardiovascular experiment." Lewis continued rummaging through the trunk, throwing out old scarves, faded hats, and what appeared to be a Halloween pumpkin costume. "I know I stored gloves here somewhere." Kelly watched the scene with an involuntary smile. In the past few weeks, she'd gotten used to that dynamic. Blair questioned everything. Lewis responded with infinite patience, and Kelly stayed in the middle, trying not to get attached, trying and failing miserably. "Found them." Lewis raised a pair of gloves triumphantly. They were children's pink gloves with a unicorn print. Blair looked at the gloves as if they were a personal insult. "I prefer hypothermia." "Blair, Dad, I'm 7 years old, not 3. And unicorns are mythological creatures with no scientific basis. Horses with horns could exist theoretically. They couldn't. The cranial structure wouldn't support it." Lewis sighed and went back to rummaging through the trunk. "There must be another pair here. I remember storing." He stopped suddenly. Kelly saw the change in his posture. His shoulders became tense. His hands stopped in the air, holding something. "What's wrong?" she asked. Lewis turned slowly. In his hand there was a pair of light blue wool gloves. They were worn by time, with some loose threads and a small faded stain on the right thumb. "Nothing. It's just that it's been a while since I've seen this." He sat on the floor, next to the trunk, looking at the gloves as if they were a lost treasure. Blair approached, curious. "Whose gloves are those, Dad?" "From someone I met a long time ago." Kelly felt something strange in her chest, a feeling of recognition that didn't make sense. "A girlfriend?" Blair asked. "Not exactly. It was at a winter camp, when I was 15 years old. I was the most out-of-place kid there. I spent all my time drawing instead of participating in activities." "That seems genetically consistent," Blair observed. "I also prefer solitary intellectual activities." Lewis smiled, but his eyes remained fixed on the gloves. "There was a girl there. She was different from everyone else. The other kids thought I was strange for drawing buildings all the time. But she sat next to me one day and asked what I was drawing. Kelly felt her mouth go dry. And what did you say? I said they were buildings. Skyscrapers. She looked at the drawings and said I was going to build incredible things one day, that I had real talent. He ran his thumb over the worn wool. Nobody had ever said that to me before. My parents wanted me to be a lawyer. My teachers thought drawing was a waste of time. But that girl, she believed in me before I believed in myself. What was her name? Blair asked. Lewis frowned. That's the problem. I don't remember her full name. Everyone at camp used nicknames. I called her Snowflake because she had arrived on the day of a snowstorm. Kelly felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Snowflake. She remembered that nickname. She remembered a shy boy with notebooks full of drawings. She remembered sitting next to him because he seemed as lonely as she felt. What happened to her? Kelly's voice came out strange, but Lewis didn't seem to notice. On the last day of camp, she gave me these gloves. She said they were to keep me warm while I drew my buildings. And then her father showed up to pick her up in a huge black car. She left, and I never saw her again. Did you try to find her? I tried, but I only knew the nickname and that her father was some kind of important businessman. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Blair analyzed the situation. That's statistically frustrating. With the limited data you had, the chances of meeting again were practically zero. Thanks for the comforting analysis, sweetheart. I'm realistic, Dad. Not comforting. Lewis carefully put the gloves away in his coat pocket. You know what's funny? I became an architect because of her. Every building I designed, a part of me hoped she would see it, that she would know her words meant something. Kelly couldn't breathe. She remembered that camp. She remembered giving the gloves. She remembered the boy with dreamy eyes who drew skyscrapers. And she remembered her father arriving to pick her up, furious because she had missed 2 days of business preparatory classes because of a camp. After that day, there were no more camps. There was no more time to sit next to shy boys and talk about dreams. There was only Fox and corporations. Kelly? Lewis was looking at her. Are you okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I just need air. She got up too quickly and almost tripped on the coffee table. Careful. Lewis caught her by the arm before she fell. His face was close. Too close. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. I just felt dizzy suddenly. Do you want water? No, I need to leave. She grabbed her purse and practically ran to the door. Kelly, wait. But she didn't wait. Outside, the cold Louisiana air hit her face like a slap. 15 years. 15 years ago, she had met Lewis Dawson. She had believed in him. She had given him the gloves he now kept as a treasure. And now she was there to destroy everything he loved. Kelly leaned against the porch wall, trying to control her breathing. Inside the house, she heard Blair ask, Dad, why is the intern acting so strange? And Lewis's answer, I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find out. Kelly didn't sleep that night. The light blue gloves wouldn't leave her head. The boy from camp, the skyscraper drawings, the words she had said 15 years ago that apparently had changed someone's life. The next morning, she returned to the Dawson house pretending nothing had happened. Pretending she hadn't run out the night before. Pretending her entire life hadn't just been turned upside down. Lewis opened the door with a relieved smile. You came back. I thought I had scared you with the glove story. No, I just felt sick suddenly. It must have been something I ate. Chicken nuggets from dinner, probably. Blair appeared behind her father. The bacterial contamination rate in processed foods is statistically concerning. Thanks for the comforting information, Blair. I'm informative, not comforting. Kelly entered the house, trying to act normally, but Blair watched her with those analytical eyes that seemed to see through any lie. What Kelly didn't know was that Blair Dawson was 7 years old, had an above-average IQ, and had just started a new scientific project, making her father fall in love with the strange intern. Dad, can you get the sugar from the pantry? Blair asked, with the most innocent voice she could manage. Sure, sweetheart. Kelly, can you help him? The sugar is on the top shelf, and Dad is afraid of heights. Lewis frowned. I'm not afraid of heights. Yes, you are. You got nervous on that Ferris wheel. That thing was swaying too much. It's different. It's the same thing. Go on. Kelly got up from the couch, still somewhat suspicious, and followed Louis to the pantry. It was a small space, very small, the kind of space where two people were necessarily too close to each other. "The sugar is up there," Louis pointed. "I see it. Do you want me to get it?" "I can reach it." Kelly stretched her arm. She couldn't reach it. "Do you want a chair?" "I don't need a chair." She stood on tiptoes. The high heels slipped. Kelly lost her balance and fell directly into Louis's arms. For a second, nobody moved. Kelly's face was inches from his. She could smell popcorn and soap, a combination that shouldn't be pleasant, but somehow was. "Are you okay?" Louis asked, his voice lower than normal. "I am. I just..." Click. They both turned their heads at the same time. The pantry door had just closed. Louis moved away from Kelly and tried the doorknob. Locked. "Blair?" "Yes, Dad?" Her voice came from the other side, perfectly calm. "The door locked." "How strange." "Blair, open the door." "I can't. It's locked." "Then unlock it." "I don't know how." Louis rested his forehead against the door. "Blair, you're 7 years old and you know how to take apart a vacuum cleaner. You know how to open a door. Maybe I temporarily forgot. It happens to the best minds." Kelly crossed her arms, looking around the tiny pantry. "How long do you think she's going to leave us here? Knowing my daughter? Long enough for her to consider the experiment successful." "What experiment?" Louis blushed slightly. I'm not sure." From the other side of the door, Blair answered, "It's an experiment about forced proximity and development of emotional bonds. I read about it in a scientific magazine." "You read scientific magazines?" Kelly asked. "Don't you?" Louis sighed. "Blair, this isn't appropriate." "Science doesn't worry about social appropriation, Dad. Science worries about results." 20 minutes later, Blair finally opened the door, writing something in a little notebook. "Data collected. You can come out." Kelly left the pantry, trying to maintain her composure. Louis looked at his daughter with a mixture of exasperation and reluctant pride. "We're going to talk about this later. I hope it's a productive conversation." The rest of the afternoon went relatively normally, or as normally as it could be in the Dawson house, until the juice incident. Kelly was crossing the kitchen when she stepped on something wet. Her feet slipped. She tried to hold onto the counter, failed, and fell. Right into Louis's arms, who was conveniently passing by at the same moment. "We need to stop meeting like this," he said, holding her. "I completely agree." From the corner of the kitchen, Blair watched with her notebook. "Interesting, the repetition of the pattern suggests physical compatibility." "Blair? What? It's scientific observation." Kelly straightened up, looking at the floor. "Why is there juice spilled here?" "I dropped it accidentally," Blair said. "Accidentally?" "Yes, my hand slipped. 4 times. Louis ran his hand over his face. "Sweetheart, what exactly are you trying to do?" "Nothing, just conducting domestic research." That night, Kelly was invited for dinner. When she arrived at the table, she found a scene that made her stop at the entrance. Candles. Everywhere. Candles in bottles, candles on saucers, candles in places where candles definitely shouldn't be. And in the center of the table, a plate of chicken nuggets arranged in the shape of a heart. "Blair prepared dinner," Louis explained, clearly embarrassed. "I noticed." "It's a romantic dinner," Blair informed. "I read that couples need romantic moments to strengthen bonds." "We're not a couple," Kelly said. "Yet," Blair corrected. "Blair? What?" "Statistically, you demonstrate all the signs of mutual attraction. Dilated pupils, frequent physical proximity, nervous laughter." Louis sat down, defeated. "Sorry about this. She read some book about behavioral psychology and now thinks she's an expert." "I am an expert." Blair sat at the head of the table, like a small queen observing her subjects. "Now, eat the nuggets while you talk about your feelings." Dinner was surprisingly pleasant, despite the embarrassing circumstances. Between one nugget and another, Louis began talking about the house, about the land, about the history. "My grandfather built all of this with his own hands. He was an immigrant, arrived in New Orleans with nothing. He worked, saved, and bought this piece of land." Kelly felt her stomach sink. "He turned this place into the heart of the community. Neighborhood children came here. Neighbors gathered. It was more than a property. It was a home for everyone." "And you want to keep it," Kelly said, her voice small. "I need to keep it. Not for me. For Blair. For my grandfather's memory. For all the people this place has helped over the years." Kelly looked at the candles, at the heart-shaped nuggets, at that man who had no idea who she really was, and felt the weight of guilt crush her chest. First, she had discovered he was the boy from camp, the boy she had encouraged, the boy who had kept her gloves for 15 years. Now, she discovered that the land she wanted to destroy wasn't just a property. It was an entire family's history, an immigrant grandfather's legacy, the heart of a community. "Louis, I need to tell you something." He looked at her, waiting. The doorbell rang. "Wait a second." Louis got up and went to the door. Kelly heard voices, a male voice that sounded strangely familiar. Then Louis returned to the kitchen, accompanied by a man in an impeccable suit and sharp smile. Kelly froze. It was Marcus Fox, her cousin, and he was looking directly at her. Marcus Fox was standing in the Dawson kitchen, smiling like a shark that had just found a lost little fish. Kelly felt the nugget dinner turn in her stomach. "Cousin, what a surprise to find you here." Louis looked from one to the other, confused. "You know each other?" "We do," Marcus answered before Kelly could open her mouth. "Kelly and I are old friends." "Cousins," Kelly corrected quickly. "Distant cousins, very distant, practically strangers." "What a coincidence," Louis said. "Mr. Fox came to talk about the land. Apparently, he works for that real estate company that wants to buy my property." "We work together." Marcus looked at Kelly with a malicious gleam in his eyes. "Isn't that right, cousin?" Kelly felt sweat run down the back of her neck. "Marcus is from the gardening department. He takes care of the office plants, from the company where I used to work, before being an intern." Blair, who was watching everything from the corner of the kitchen, narrowed her eyes. "Your story has many suspicious pauses." "That's my way of speaking. It wasn't like that before." Marcus let out a little laugh. "Kelly has always been full of surprises. We never know which version of her we're going to find." "What do you want, Marcus?" Kelly asked through her teeth. "Me? Nothing. I just came to check how the negotiations were going. Miss Dawson here is a difficult man to convince. And I'm going to keep being one." Louis crossed his arms. "I already said I'm not selling. Everyone has a price, Mr. Dawson. I don't." Marcus shrugged, still smiling. "We'll see." "Well, I don't want to interrupt your romantic dinner. Heart-shaped nuggets, how charming." He turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Oh, Kelly, your father asked about you. Said it's been days since you showed up at the social services office." And he left, leaving a heavy silence behind. Louis turned to Kelly. "Is your cousin always like that?" "Like what?" "Unpleasant." "He has his moments. That was one of them." Blair wrote something in her notebook. His body language indicated and yours indicated panic. Interesting data. "Blair, go to sleep. It's 8:15. Go to sleep anyway." The next morning, Kelly arrived at the park, where Louis sold popcorn with a knot in her stomach. Marcus knew where she was. Marcus had seen her with Louis, and Marcus never did anything without ulterior motives. She found Louis adjusting the cart at Jackson Square, with Blair sitting on a nearby bench, reading a book about astrophysics. "Good morning, city princess," Louis smiled when he saw her. "Ready for another day of hard work?" "Always." Kelly put on the chicken apron and began helping organize the little bags of popcorn. For a moment, she almost managed to forget that her life was about to fall apart. Almost. "Look who's here." Marcus's voice cut through the air like nails on a chalkboard. He approached the cart dressed in an impeccable suit that seemed completely out of place in the middle of the park. Tourists passed around, street musicians played jazz, and Marcus Fox looked like an alien visiting a primitive planet. "A bag of popcorn, please," he said, smiling at Louis. $2.50. Louis responded, clearly suspicious. Marcus handed over a $20 bill. "Keep the change. Consider it a tip for the hospitality yesterday." Kelly positioned herself between the two. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "Strolling, appreciating the local culture. Is that a crime? You've never appreciated anything that didn't come with dollar signs in front." "How unfair, cousin. I appreciate many things. Art, for example, and interesting coincidences." He bit into a popcorn, chewing slowly. "You know, Mr. Dawson, I've always found it fascinating when people pretend to be what they're not. Don't you agree?" Louis frowned. "What do you mean?" "Nothing, just philosophizing. Life is full of masks, isn't it? Sometimes the person you think you know is completely different beneath the surface." Kelly felt her heart race. "Marcus, can I talk to you for a second?" In private? Sure, cousin. I'd love to catch up. She pulled him away from the cart, stopping behind a century-old tree. What do you want? Straight to the point. I like that. Marcus? Okay. I want to know what you're doing, Kelly. Your father is furious. You disappeared from the office, you don't answer calls, and now I discover you're playing babysitter for the man who's blocking our most important project. That's none of your business. It is my business, because while you're playing house, I'm doing the real work, and your father is starting to notice who really deserves to inherit the company. Kelly felt a chill down her spine. You wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare what? Show Uncle that his daughter is emotionally compromised with the enemy? That she's sabotaging her own company because of a popcorn vendor? I'm not sabotaging anything. Then what are you doing, Kelly? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're falling in love with the wrong man. Kelly didn't answer. Marcus smiled, satisfied. That's what I thought. He took his phone out of his pocket and, before Kelly could react, turned and took a picture of her with Louis in the background at the popcorn cart. What are you doing? Documenting, for security purposes. Marcus, delete that. No, thank you. I think I'll keep it. You never know when a photo might be useful. Kelly tried to grab the phone, but Marcus was faster. Easy, cousin. No need to get nervous. I'm not going to use this, unless you give me reasons to. This is blackmail. This is business. You should know the difference. He put away his phone and adjusted his suit. You have 1 week to get that signature. After that, I'll tell Uncle everything, and your little boyfriend too. Marcus walked away, whistling an irritating melody. Kelly stood still, feeling the world spin around her. Kelly? Louis's voice came from behind her. Is everything okay? She turned, forcing a smile. It is. My cousin just wanted to say hi. He seems like the type of person who says one thing and means another. You have no idea. Louis watched her for a moment, clearly worried. You know you can tell me anything, right? Kelly looked at him. At that kind man who kept gloves from 15 years ago, who had given up his career for his daughter, who had no idea that she was the person who wanted to destroy everything he loved. I know, she lied. That night, lying in her bed with imported sheets, Kelly looked at the ceiling and made a decision. She had 1 week. 1 week to figure out how to save Louis without destroying herself. The problem was that, deep down, she was beginning to suspect this was impossible. 5 days had passed since Marcus's ultimatum, and Kelly still hadn't slept properly. She was helping Louis load boxes of corn onto the cart when he dropped everything on the floor and stared at her with a huge smile. I got in. Got in where? The New Orleans Great Street Food Festival. I just received confirmation. Kelly felt her stomach sink. The festival? That festival? The biggest gastronomic event in the state. 3 days of sales. If I can get a good result, I'll pay off the land debts, and Fox and corporations will never be able to pressure me again. The universe had a very cruel sense of humor. That's amazing. Kelly forced a smile. You don't seem excited? I am excited. It's just that my face takes a while to process positive emotions. Blair appeared at the door, carrying a clipboard. I already did the calculations. Considering the average flow of visitors, the price per unit, and the profit margin, Dad would need to sell approximately 4,200 bags of popcorn to cover all the debts. 4,200? Kelly choked. In 3 days. It's statistically challenging, but not impossible. Louis messed up his daughter's hair. Thanks for the vote of confidence, sweetheart. It's not confidence. It's math. They're different things. Kelly looked from father to daughter, feeling the weight of the dilemma fall on her shoulders. If Louis succeeded, Fox and corporations would lose the land forever. Her father would be furious. Marcus would have ammunition to destroy her. If Louis failed, he would lose everything. His grandfather's house, the family legacy, the heart of the community. And Kelly would be responsible for it. You're going to help me, right? Louis asked, his eyes full of hope. Of course, she answered, before she could stop herself. I'll be there. The first day of the festival arrived with scorching sun and a crowd that seemed endless. Kelly had never seen so many people in one place. Food stands stretched for entire blocks. The smell of fried food, spices and sweets mixed in the air. Live music competed with the noise of conversations. And in the middle of all this, Louis Dawson's humble popcorn cart. We're in the worst possible location, Kelly observed, looking around. It's what I could afford to pay for, Lewis shrugged. We'll make it work. Dad is too optimistic, Blair informed. I already calculated that our position reduces the potential flow of customers by 43%. Thanks for the motivation, sweetheart. Motivation doesn't pay bills, strategy does. Kelly looked at the girl with renewed respect. She's right. We need a strategy. The first hours were promising. Lewis's popcorn was really good, and customers who tried it always came back for more. Blair stayed at the entrance distributing free samples with the efficiency of a general commanding troops. Free sample of Cajun popcorn, family recipe, statistically superior to 92% of popcorns on the market. Where did you get that statistic? A customer asked. I made it up, but it's probably correct. Kelly was laughing for the first time in days when it happened. A hiss, a crack, and then smoke. Dad, the machine is making strange noises. Lewis ran to the cart. The popcorn machine shook, coughed, and finally stopped completely. No, 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 no. He tried to turn it on again. Nothing. What happened? Kelly approached. The motor burned out. I knew I should have replaced it, but I didn't have money, and Lewis ran his hand through his hair, desperate. The line of customers began to disperse. Murmurs of impatience, people looking at other stands. Kelly saw weeks of work about to go down the drain. And something inside her snapped. Okay, calm down. Let me think. Kelly, there's nothing to think about. Without the machine, there's no popcorn. Without popcorn, there's no sale. Without sale. Lewis, be quiet for a second. He fell silent, surprised. Kelly looked around, assessed the situation, and then her executive brain kicked in. Blair, can you keep the line entertained for 10 minutes? I can recite facts about the quantum physics of corn. Perfect, do that. Most people don't find quantum physics interesting. Then make them find it interesting. Kelly turned to Lewis. Do you have enough corn for the day? I do, but... And pots? Portable stove? Anything? There's an old stove in the festival warehouse, but go get it, now. Kelly, you can't just... Lewis, trust me. He stared at her for a moment, then nodded and ran off. Kelly turned to the line of impatient customers. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the technical inconvenience. While we resolve the situation, my assistant will share fascinating information about the science behind perfect popcorn. Blair positioned herself in front. Did you know that each grain of corn contains approximately 14% moisture? When heated to 180 degrees Celsius, that moisture turns into steam and... Some customers left, but most stayed curious. Lewis returned 15 minutes later with a rusty portable stove and 3 pots of different sizes. This was all I could get. It's enough. Kelly rolled up her sleeves and started organizing. Blair, you control the line. Maximum of 10 people at a time. Lewis, you make the popcorn. I handle the money and logistics. You know how to do this? I manage. I used to manage things. Trust me. The following hours were controlled chaos. Kelly worked under the scorching sun, cast sweating through the chicken apron, shouting orders, organizing lines, solving problems. She broke 2 nails, stained her blouse with butter, and at some point lost a shoe, and had never felt so alive. When the sun began to set, Lewis counted the money. 1,400 bags. Is that good? That's incredible, if we keep this pace. He stopped, looking at Kelly with a strange expression. What? She asked. Nothing, it's just that you were incredible today. Where did all that come from? Kelly thought about all the board meetings, all the corporate crises, all the years training to be the perfect heiress. Instinct, she lied. Lewis smiled and without warning hugged her. Kelly froze for a second, then relaxed in his arms, smelling the popcorn and sweat and something else she couldn't name. Thank you, he whispered, for everything. She closed her eyes, enjoying the moment. And then she saw, over Lewis's shoulder, a familiar figure in the crowd. Marcus Fox was standing a few meters away, and he was taking another photo. The last day of the festival ended with 4,352 bags of popcorn sold. Lewis was ecstatic. We did it. Kelly, we did it! He lifted her off the ground and spun her around in the middle of the square, laughing like a child. Kelly laughed along, forgetting for a moment that Marcus was somewhere with compromising photos, that her deadline had ended, that her entire life was a lie. For that second, she was just Kelly. And he was just Lewis. And nothing else mattered. Dad, this is statistically impressive. Blair appeared with her clipboard. We exceeded the goal by 152 bags. I underestimated the Kelly variable. The Kelly variable? Kelly asked, still in Lewis's arms. Your crisis management capacity. I didn't have enough data to calculate. My mistake. Lewis put Kelly on the ground but didn't let go of her hand. This means we can pay the debts, that the land is saved, that Fox and corporations can't pressure us anymore. Kelly felt a tightness in her chest. That's wonderful, she said, her voice strange. Are you okay? I am. Just emotional. Blair narrowed her eyes. Your micro-expressions indicate internal conflict, not positive emotion. Blair, go put away the clipboard. But, clipboard. Now. Blair walked away, murmuring something about adults and their emotional incapacities. That's when it started to rain. It wasn't a heavy rain. It was a fine, cold drizzle, the kind of rare rain that New Orleans sometimes gifted in winter. Small drops that shone under the festival lights like glitter falling from the sky. Lewis looked up, smiling. This reminds me of something. What? Winter camp. On the last day it started to snow. I was sitting alone drawing when that girl showed up. Kelly felt her heart stop. You still think about that? Always, especially on days like this. He turned to her, the rain wetting his hair, running down his face. You know what's funny? She had this way of tilting her head when she was thinking, as if the whole world was happening inside her mind. Kelly realized she was tilting her head at that exact moment. She straightened quickly. She sounds like an interesting person. She was, and she said something I never forgot. What did she say? Lewis stared at her, his eyes shining with the rain and something else. She said that dreams weren't nonsense, that people who draw buildings are the ones who change the world, and that I should stop hiding and show everyone what I was capable of doing. Kelly felt tears mix with the rain on her face. Lewis, you tilt your head the same way she did. The air between them became heavy, and your eye twitches when you're nervous, just like hers. Lewis, I need to tell you, and you use the same words. Dreams aren't nonsense. You said that to Blair the other day, remember? Word for word. Kelly couldn't breathe. And there's one more thing. He took something out of his pocket, the light blue gloves, worn by Time. On the last day of camp, she gave me these gloves, and I kept them for 15 years hoping to find her again. He took a step forward. Snowflake. The nickname hit her like lightning. You knew? I suspected, since the night of the gloves, but I wasn't sure until now. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted you to tell me. I wanted you to trust me. The tears now flowed freely down Kelly's face. Lewis, I wanted to tell you. I was going to tell you. But everything got so complicated. And, hey, he held her face with both hands. It doesn't matter. You're here. I found you. You don't understand. There are things you don't know about me. I know everything I need to know. No, you don't. Kelly, Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. The amplified voice cut through the moment like a knife. Kelly and Lewis turned at the same time. Marcus Fox was standing in the center of the square, holding a microphone. Next to him, a team of lawyers in suits and ties, and behind a news van with cameras pointed directly at them. What's happening? Lewis asked. Kelly felt the world collapse. No. I would like to present to you a fascinating story, Marcus continued, clearly enjoying every second. A story about lies, betrayal, and the most famous heiress in the Louisiana real estate market. The cameras moved closer. Lewis, listen to me. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman standing next to Mr. Person, Lewis Dawson, is not a social services intern, murmurs in the crowd. She is Kelly Fox, heiress of Fox and Corporations, the same company that's trying to destroy the Dawson family land. Lewis turned to Kelly, his face pale. What? Lewis, I can explain. Is it true? It's complicated. Is it true or not? Kelly felt tears stream down. Yes, it's true. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. Lewis let go of her hands and took a step back. Everything was a lie. No, Lewis, my feelings are real. The camp was real. Everything that happened between us. You came to my house to make me sign a contract. At first, yes, but after, you pretended to be someone else. I know, and I regret it. You lied to me, to Blair, to everyone. The cameras captured everything. Marcus smiled like a cat that had just caught the canary. Lewis, please. He raised his hand, interrupting her. I need some time. Lewis, Kelly, or whatever your real name is, Please, go away." She stood in the rain, watching Louis take Blair by the hand and walk away without looking back. Marcus approached, putting away his phone. "Well, cousin, looks like your time is up." Kelly didn't respond. She just stood there, in the fine New Orleans rain, watching everything she loved disappear into the crowd. Kelly spent 3 days without leaving the apartment. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages from her father, messages from Marcus, messages from unknown numbers that were probably journalists wanting the full story. She ignored them all. On the morning of the 4th day, someone knocked on the door so hard that Kelly thought it was the police. It was worse. It was her father. "Do you have any idea what you did?" Gerald Fox entered uninvited, his face red with anger. "I raised you to be a ruthless executive, not a lovesick teenager." "Dad, I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you infiltrated our biggest obstacle's house, and instead of getting the signature, you fell in love with him. This isn't a television soap opera, Kelly." "I know it's not." Marcus showed me the photos, you wearing chicken aprons, pushing a popcorn cart, hugging that man in the middle of a festival. "Dad, you're a fox. Foxes don't push popcorn carts." Kelly felt something snap inside her. "And what do foxes do, Dad? Destroy families? Take land that belongs to entire communities? Step on people to build skyscrapers that nobody needs?" Gerald was silent for a moment. "Foxes do what needs to be done. Even if that means hurting innocent people? Business isn't about innocence, it's about results." Kelly shook her head. "I don't want those results anymore." "Then you don't want to be a fox anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. "Starting today," Gerald said, his voice cold, "you're removed from all company operations. Marcus will take over the Dawson Land Project, and you're going to stay in your apartment thinking about your choices." "You're grounding me? I'm 30 years old. You're acting like you're 15. So yes, grounded." He turned to leave. "Oh, and one more thing. Mr. A. Dawson signed the contract yesterday." Kelly felt the ground disappear. "What?" "Marcus went to his house with a revised offer, and he accepted." "That's impossible. Louis would never sell." "Apparently, he said the place lost its meaning. I don't know what you did to that man, Kelly, but congratulations. You managed to destroy him from the inside out." The door slammed behind him. Kelly stood in the middle of the room, trying to process what she had just heard. Louis had signed his grandfather's land, the 3-generation house, the heart of the community, all lost because of her. On the other side of town, Louis Dawson was sitting on the porch of the house that would soon no longer be his. Blair appeared at the door, holding 2 mugs. "I made hot chocolate. I read that hot drinks help in moments of emotional stress." "Thank you, sweetheart." She sat next to him, her feet swinging without touching the floor. "Dad, can I ask a scientifically relevant question?" "You can." "Why did you sign the contract?" Louis sighed, looking at the garden where his grandfather had planted every tree. "Because this place reminds me of her now, and I can't look at any corner without thinking about the lie. But she helped us at the festival. She worked hard." "I know. And she made you smile again. You hadn't smiled like that since Mom left." "Blair, I have the data, Dad. Your micro-expressions changed significantly in recent weeks. You were happier." "Happiness based on a lie isn't real happiness." Blair frowned, processing. "But what if the lie was just the beginning? What if the rest was true?" Louis didn't answer. "Dad, I analyzed Kelly's behavior. In the first days, she was clearly uncomfortable. The metrics indicated active deception. But after it changed." "What do you mean it changed?" "The deception decreased. The emotional responses became more genuine. When she looked at you, her pupils dilated. When you told stories about Grandpa, she cried for real. Tears can't be faked, Dad. The chemical composition is different." "You analyzed her tears?" "Metaphorically. I don't have adequate laboratory equipment yet." Louis almost smiled. "Almost. Sweetheart, sometimes people do wrong things for complicated reasons." "I know, but sometimes people do wrong things and then try to fix them. Doesn't that count for anything?" Louis looked at his daughter, impressed with the wisdom hidden in that small body. "When did you get so smart about relationships?" "I read 17 books about behavioral psychology, and I watched a lot of romantic movies for research." "Research?" "For my experiment to make you two fall in love, which technically worked, but had unexpected results." Louis laughed for the first time in days, A small laugh, but real. You're unbelievable, you know that? I know, it's statistically proven. They were silent for a moment, drinking hot chocolate while the sun set over New Orleans. Dad? Yes? Do you still love her? Louis took a while to answer. I loved a girl 15 years ago who made me believe in my dreams, and I loved a woman in recent weeks who made me smile again. The problem is I don't know if they're the same person. Maybe you need to ask her. I sent her away. Then unsend her. It's not that simple, Blair. Actually, it is. Human communication exists exactly for this, to resolve misunderstandings through dialogue. You're 7 years old. How do you know these things? I read a lot, and adults are surprisingly complicated for such developed creatures. Louis shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The contract is already signed, sweetheart. The house is going to be demolished. It's over. Blair took a sip of hot chocolate. Contracts can be broken. I read about it. Not this type of contract. Every type of contract has loopholes. You just have to find the right person to look. Louis looked at his daughter with curiosity. What are you thinking? Blair smiled, the kind of smile that usually meant trouble. I'm thinking that maybe it's time for me to pay a visit. A visit to whom? Blair finished the hot chocolate and stood up. To someone who owes me a complete scientific experiment. Before Louis could ask more, she had already gone into the house, and the next morning, Blair Dawson had a plan. Louis Dawson knew he was making a mistake, but his daughter had that look. The look that said, you can say no, but I'm going to do this anyway, so you'd better cooperate. Blair, I'm not going to take you to Fox Corporations. Dad, technically you're not taking me, you're giving me a ride. They're different things. They're the same thing. They're not. A ride implies you're just providing transportation. What I do after is my responsibility. Louis rubbed his face with his hands. You're 7 years old. Age is just a number. Emotional maturity is a much more relevant metric. And your emotional maturity says that confronting the woman who destroyed our family is a good idea? She didn't destroy our family, Dad. She made mistakes. They're different things. Louis was silent. Besides, Blair continued, if you don't take me, I'll take the bus and the streetcar, and I'll probably get lost at least twice because the New Orleans public transportation system is confusing for beginners. That's emotional blackmail. That's logic. Emotional blackmail would involve tears and manipulation. I'm just presenting facts. 30 minutes later, Louis parked the car in front of the Fox Corporation's building. I'm going in with you. No. Blair? Dad, this is something I need to do alone. You're going to stay here waiting. I'll be back in 20 minutes. What if you don't come back? Then you can come in and rescue me heroically. But I'll come back. Louis looked at the imposing building, then at his determined daughter. Why is this so important to you? Blair hesitated for the first time. Because you stopped smiling, Dad. And I want you to smile again. Before Louis could respond, she had already gotten out of the car. The Fox Corporation's receptionist was having a quiet morning until a 7-year-old child appeared at the counter. Good morning. I would like to speak with Kelly Fox, please. The woman looked down, surprised. Hi, sweetheart. Are you lost? No, ma'am. I know exactly where I am. My name is Blair Dawson, and I have an important matter to discuss with Miss Fox. Dawson? The receptionist frowned. That name sounds familiar. Probably because my father is Louis Dawson, the man with the land you want to buy. The receptionist's eyes widened. Oh, I see. Is Miss Fox available? Sweetheart, I can't just let you go up. Where are your parents? My father is in the car outside. He brought me here. You can check through the window if you want. He's the man with the face of someone who made questionable decisions. The receptionist looked through the glass window and saw Louis sitting in the car, clearly anxious. Does he know you're here? He brought me. So technically, yes. But he didn't come in with you, because I asked him not to. This is a matter between me and Miss Fox. The receptionist seemed genuinely confused about what to do. Listen, sweetheart, I understand you want to talk to her, but Miss Fox took care of me for several weeks. She burned pasta in my kitchen. She wore chicken aprons. She helped me feed my fish Bubbles. I think she'll want to see me. She took care of you? It's a long and complicated story involving false identities and unexpected development of emotional bonds. But the summary is, we're friends. The receptionist picked up the phone, still uncertain. "Let me call her Floor. One moment." Blair waited patiently, her hands folded in front of her body. "Miss Fox, there's a child here in the lobby. She says her name is Blair Dawson, and that—" "Yes, Dawson. She says you're friends, and that—" "I understand. Yes, ma'am." She hung up, looking surprised. "You can go up. 32nd floor, last door on the right." "Thank you. Your professional competence is admirable." Blair entered the elevator with the confidence of someone who did this every day. When the doors opened on the 32nd floor, Kelly was already waiting in the hallway. She looked terrible. Deep dark circles, hair tied up any which way, wrinkled clothes. "Blair? What are you doing here?" "I came to complete my experiment." "What experiment?" "The experiment to get you and Dad together. It had unexpected results, but it's not over yet." Kelly knelt down to be at the girl's height. "Blair, your father and I, things got very complicated." "I know. That's why I'm here." Blair took off her backpack and opened the zipper. "I brought something you need to see." She pulled out a folded paper, yellowed by time with creases from being opened and closed many times. "What's this?" "Open it." Kelly took the paper with trembling hands and unfolded it. It was an architectural drawing, hand-drawn lines, careful details, a beautiful building surrounded by trees and green areas. At the top, in neat letters, Dawson Community Center. And in the lower right corner, 2 signatures. Lewis Dawson and Kelly. The tears came before Kelly could stop them. "Where did you find this?" "In the box where Dad keeps things from camp, along with the blue gloves." "He kept this for 15 years? Dad keeps everything that matters to him." Kelly ran her fingers over the signatures. She remembered that day, the 2 of them sitting in the snow dreaming about the future. "Blair, I ruined everything." "That's true. You made significant mistakes. Thanks for the honesty." But Blair sat on the hallway floor, pulling Kelly to sit next to her. "Mistakes can be fixed. That's how science works. Hypothesis, test, failure, adjustment, new attempt. Your father signed the contract. The land is going to be sold. Contracts have loopholes. I read about it." "Blair, it's not that simple. Dad stopped drawing again, you know?" Kelly was silent. "He had started drawing again while you were there. I found new sketches, beautiful projects, but after you left, he put everything away again." "Blair? He stopped believing in people when Mom left, and he stopped again now, except this time it's worse, because this time he thought he had found the right person." Kelly wiped away her tears. "What if I can't fix it?" "You don't know until you try. That's the first rule of science." "I thought the first rule was to ask questions." "There are several first rules. Science is flexible like that." Kelly looked at that extraordinary girl sitting on the cold floor of a corporate hallway. "You're amazing, you know that?" "I know. It's statistically proven." "Is your father downstairs?" "In the car. Waiting. Probably biting his nails with anxiety." Kelly stood up, helping Blair do the same. "I'm going to find a way to fix this, even if I lose everything." "You already lost everything. What more do you have to lose?" It was true. "Blair Dawson, you're the wisest person I know." "I know. Now let's go down before Dad has a nervous breakdown." The 2 walked to the elevator side by side. "Kelly?" "Yes? When you and Dad get married, can I be the maid of honor?" "Blair, we haven't even spoken again yet." "I know, but I like to plan ahead." The elevator doors opened, and on the other side was Marcus Fox, smiling like someone who had just won the lottery. Well, what an interesting meeting." Marcus Fox blocked the elevator entrance like an obstacle in an Italian suit. "Cousin, what a surprise, and you brought the enemy's daughter. What a touching scene." Blair analyzed him with her scientific eyes. "Your micro-expressions indicate you're faking sympathy. It's a common manipulative technique in individuals with narcissistic tendencies." Marcus blinked. "What did this child just call me?" "She said you're fake," Kelly translated. "And she's right." Kelly. You really think you can confront me? You were removed. You don't have any power anymore." "I don't need power. I need truth." Kelly took a step forward, holding the drawing Blair had given her. "You forced Lewis to sign that contract under emotional coercion. He had just discovered I was a fox. He was devastated, vulnerable, and you showed up with lawyers to pressure him. That's called business opportunity. That's called illegal practice according to Louisiana contract law. Article 2002 of the Civil Code. Contracts signed under undue influence or extreme emotional pressure can be annulled. Marcus paled slightly. You're bluffing. I spent the entire night researching, and I called 3 different lawyers. They all confirmed the same thing. Blair raised her hand. I researched too. The jurisprudence is clear. There are at least 15 precedent cases in the last 10 years alone. You're 7 years old, Marcus said, incredulous, and you have a significant legal problem. Age doesn't change facts. Kelly smiled for the first time in days. Marcus, you have 2 options. The first, I take this to the board, expose your tactics, and let them decide what to do with you. And the second? You tear up the contract now and pretend none of this happened. Marcus let out a nervous laugh. You think Uncle will take your side? He removed you. My father removed me because I got emotionally involved. But he hates one thing more than emotions in business. What? Public scandals. And if this goes to court, it's going to be a huge scandal. The silence in the hallway was palpable. You're bluffing, Marcus repeated, but his voice had lost its confidence. Try your luck and find out. Blair pulled Kelly's sleeve. Can I add a piece of data? Sure. I recorded the entire conversation on my phone for scientific purposes, but it also serves as evidence. Marcus looked at the girl with genuine horror. That's illegal. Louisiana is a one-party consent state for recordings. I checked before coming. Kelly looked at the girl with renewed admiration. Blair, you're scary. Thank you. I try hard. Marcus took a deep breath, clearly calculating his options. Okay, what do you want? Board meeting. Now. The Fox Incorporation's boardroom had never seen a scene like that. On one side, Gerald Fox sitting at the head of the table, with the expression of someone who'd rather be anywhere else on the planet. On the other, Marcus, sweating through his expensive suit. And in the middle, Kelly, holding a folder full of documents and accompanied by a 7-year-old child taking notes in a little notebook. This is highly irregular, Gerald said. I know, Dad, but it's necessary. Kelly distributed copies of the documents to each board member. What you have in your hands is evidence that my cousin Marcus Fox used emotional coercion tactics to obtain Mr. Lewis Dawson's signature on the sale contract for the Garden District land. Murmurs around the table. That's a serious accusation, one of the directors said, and I have serious proof, including a recording. Marcus stood up. This is absurd. I simply took advantage of a business opportunity. You showed up at the house of an emotionally devastated man, accompanied by lawyers, and pressured him to sign a document he clearly didn't want to sign. That's not opportunity. That's coercion. Gerald looked from Kelly to Marcus. Marcus, is this true? Uncle, is it true or not? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Gerald sighed deeply. Kelly, what do you propose? First, that the contract be annulled and the land returned to Mr. Dawson. And second, Kelly took a deep breath. It was now or never. Second, that the skyscraper project be transformed into something different, an affordable housing complex with a community and art center. Something that helps the community instead of destroying it. That will cost millions, another director protested. It will make a profit in the long run. Affordable housing is in high demand, and good publicity is priceless. Gerald studied her for a long moment. And what do you gain from this? Nothing. Actually, I want to resign from my position as heiress. General shock in the room. Kelly, are you sure? Gerald asked, genuinely surprised. I am. I don't want to inherit an empire built on top of hurt people. I want to build something different, something mine. Blair raised her hand. Can I speak? Who is this child? The director asked. Blair Dawson, daughter of the man whose land you want to buy, and future scientist. Pleasure. She stood up, adjusting her glasses. I have a relevant observation. Miss Kelly worked at my father's popcorn cart for weeks. She burned pasta, wore chicken aprons, and helped save our business at a festival. She didn't do it for money or power. She did it because she cares. The room fell silent. And you should care too. Because companies that care last longer. I have the statistical data if anyone wants to see it. Gerald looked at the girl, then at his daughter. You did all that? Chicken aprons? They had chicken prints, Dad. It was what was available. For a moment, something changed in Gerald's face. Something that almost looked like pride? The proposal is accepted. Marcus, you're removed until further notice. Kelly, he hesitated, do what you think is right. Kelly smiled. Thank you, Dad. 6 months later, the sun shone over the Garden District of New Orleans. A new sign decorated the entrance to the land that had almost been destroyed, Dawson Fox Community Center. And in the middle of the newly planted garden, a wedding was taking place. Lewis Dawson waited at the improvised altar, wearing an elegant suit that Blair had approved after extensive paternal presentability tests. In his pocket, as always, there were popcorn crumbs. "Are you nervous?" the priest asked. "Completely. That's normal. My daughter told me my cortisol level is 17% above normal. She measured it this morning." "Your daughter measured your stress hormones?" "She's special." The music began to play. Blair appeared first, walking down the flower aisle with the seriousness of someone conducting an important scientific experiment. Her white dress had been modified with small LED lights that blinked in synchronized patterns. "I programmed the lights to blink at the rhythm of the human heart," she explained to the guests as she passed, "for purposes of scientific romanticism." Then Kelly appeared. She wasn't wearing a traditional wedding dress. It was something simpler, more her. And as she walked down the aisle, Lewis realized he was crying. "Are you okay?" Kelly asked when she reached the altar. "I am. It's just that. I spent 15 years keeping those gloves, waiting to find you again, and now you're here. Sorry for the delay. It was worth the wait." The ceremony was brief and full of laughter. Blair interrupted twice to make scientifically relevant observations about the marriage vows. The priest lost his train of thought when Bubbles, the fish, was mentioned in the acknowledgments. And when it was time for the kiss, the crowd applauded while the LED lights on Blair's dress blinked frantically. "Are the lights having a technical problem?" Lewis asked. "No," Blair answered. "I programmed them to blink faster during moments of high emotion. The data is excellent." Instead of champagne, guests toasted with buckets of gourmet popcorn. Lewis's grandmother's recipe, of course. Gerald Fox was present, looking uncomfortable in an environment without mahogany tables and contracts to sign. But he was there, and that meant something. "Dad, thank you for coming," Kelly said. "I wasn't going to miss my daughter's wedding, even if it's on land I tried to buy." "Technically, you still own part of the community center." "I know. It's the strangest investment I've ever made. But not the worst?" Gerald looked around. Children running, neighbors talking, a community gathered. "No, definitely not the worst." Later, as the sun set over New Orleans, Kelly and Lewis sat on the porch bench, the same bench where Lewis had told the story of the gloves. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About what?" "About having lost your father's empire." Kelly looked at the community center, at Blair teaching quantum physics to a group of fascinated children, at the community that now had a place to call home. "I didn't lose anything. I finally found it." Lewis smiled and put his arm around her. "Welcome home, Snowflake. Welcome home, popcorn vendor." And as the stars began to appear in the Louisiana sky, Kelly Fox Dawson realized that some happy endings don't come from empires and fortunes. Sometimes they come from blue gloves kept for 15 years, chicken aprons, and a 7-year-old girl who believed in the power of science. And popcorn. Lots and lots of popcorn. This was the story of Kelly, Lewis, and little Blair. If you believe that life always gives us a second chance to fix our mistakes, comment the word lights down below. And of course, don't forget to leave your rating from 0 to 10. What did you think of little Blair's attitude to bring this couple together? Your opinion helps the channel grow a lot.